Hey guys. Hey guys. Arsenal have just beat Manchester City 1-0 in a game that almost killed me. Um, Let me see what's going on here. I feel like I'm lagging quite a bit. Give me 1 second. Let me close that. Let me just close some of my windows just to see if that'll help. It's a little crazy right now. But get in the chat and let me know how you guys are thinking and feeling. I know you guys are probably over the moon like me. I don't care how it got done. It didn't really matter how it got done, but it just needed to get done. Arsenal have just beat Manchester City, the champions, the treble winners, 1-0 at home in, like I said, a game that almost killed me because if you guys were there for the watch along, I mean, I said it at halftime that I felt like Jorginho, Rice, and Saliba and Gabrielle were, if we were to win, would have been on the wrong side. Like they deserved to be on the winning side because in that first half, I thought they kept us in it with their interceptions, keeping the ball, last ditch defending. I thought those four really stood out to me. And up front, we were really lacking any sort of like threat. And as the game wore on, I became more and more afraid of, City growing stronger and putting more pressure on us. But Arteta figured out a way to get our subs just right, where we matched them at every point in the game. We started off a little bit weaker. They started off a little bit weaker. And when they got stronger, we got stronger. And the substitution of Martinelli at halftime for Trossard was perfect. Trossard didn't really get that many touches in the first half, but Martinelli comes straight on, takes on his man, creates a little bit of threat, and all of a sudden we look like a completely different animal. Him and Jesus were adding threat to a team that was like so toothless in the first half. Then the substitutions of Tommy, Havertz, and Partey, those are the ones that won us the game because you take out the ability for them to affect us on that left-hand side with Zinchenko. You bring Thomas Partey in, who puts in the ball for Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu heads the ball down into Havertz's path. Havertz then knocks it back to Gabriel Martinelli, and Martinelli puts it in the back of the net. I don't care if it goes off of Ake or not. That is a Havertz assist and a Martinelli goal. It's all of the subs. It was all of the subs that made that goal possible. And we were screaming for it on the watch along. Please make the subs. Please make the subs. Please don't let us leave us out here with this because players are getting tired and we need our press. But it was managed perfectly by Mikel Arteta. We just needed one clear chance to put it in the back of the net and to defend properly. We didn't chuck the ball into the back of our own net. We tried to in the first 20 minutes of the game, but we didn't chuck the ball into the back of our net. We were out of possession. We were very good. We eliminated the threat of Holland. We had good midfield balance in there. He did not start with Havertz, Odegaard, and Rice. He went in there with more of a defensive pivot, which really worked for us. And at the end of the day, we got a goal and we break a terrible losing streak against Manchester City, which the longer it goes, the harder it is to break. But we fixed it. We fixed it today. And we have to beat a Manchester City side without their best players. We didn't even have our best players, but we still needed to be the team that came out with the 3 points. Now we get to go into the international break with a big win under our belt. We beat Manchester United at home. We beat Manchester City at home. We should have beat Tottenham at home. And we have every ability to get better from here. This is exactly what we need to go into international break. It did not matter how it happened. It didn't matter if it didn't matter anyway how we got the 3 points. All that mattered is that we got it. And I want to give a lot of credit to Mikel Arteta because, again, he made the substitutions at the right time, and the substitutions are why we won the game. And starting off with a weaker 11 that kind of just kept us in the game and worked hard, and then bringing on some more weapons in the second half really, really worked for us. And we just never really looked, especially at the back in terms of our back line, we never really looked rattled. Saliba and Gabrielle, again, I said this the other day, they're one of the best center back pairings in Europe. And I'm really struggling to find a better one because when it comes to keeping possession, being calm back there, last ditch tackles, interceptions, physical battle with a really good striker, they just have it all. They had us covered. That one clearance that Gabrielle makes, I mean, I was speechless because that is just like individual quality from a really, really smart center back. Saliba winning his battles in there as well, stepping in front, being decent in possession, doing his job. And then you had Rice and Jorginho in front of them, who a lot of people were saying that Jorginho was the wrong pick. I actually think he was the perfect pick. We needed to go to a double pivot, period. We could not go into this game with a single pivot. And Jorginho, his interceptions, he was winning the ball, he was keeping the ball for us. In the first half, he had some really good sprayed passes into Trossard and Gabriel Jesus. We just weren't able to capitalize on them. Rice, we robbed West Ham. I will continue to say it. I know West Ham are playing well and they did well with the money, but I don't give a damn. Declan Rice is worth the 100 million pounds that we spent. And for the media to consistently say that he's the one that needs to prove that he's worth that amount, he's done it already. We do not win that game without Declan Rice. He's the difference. The 2 times that he's played against Manchester City, we have not lost. He is a huge difference. He stops the fires. He makes it very difficult for their, attacking players to find space. And in the second half, playing a more adventurous role, he was getting us up the pitch. The guy is such a good player. Like, I am so happy that we got him. I am so happy that we got him. And in a game where we had some players that had pretty bad games, we were still able to get the job done. And that's what you need. And no Saka, and we still got the 3 points. We go into the international break, I think second in the table, only behind like Spurs or something, but with a big, big monkey off our back, because if you can beat Manchester City, you can beat anybody. And that's how Arsenal need to start thinking at this point. Let's see what you guys are saying. I've been talking for like 8-9 minutes. Ivy says, Declan Rice is a wall. Nothing moves past him. Iman says, man of the match, Rice. The Comic Moth says, Rice was man of the match. I mean, he's the difference there. I was saying that, I felt like because they didn't have Rodri or Kevin De Bruyne, one of our midfielders needed to be the star. And it ended up not being Odegaard, but Rice was the one. Rice was the one that ended up being the best midfielder on the pitch. He was everywhere. I can't wait to see his numbers. And also, Martinelli, big game player. We talked about that before the game started. Was that Martinelli is a player that always shows up in the big games. Maybe a couple of years ago, he didn't have the goals, but he was always a constant threat. He is really showing himself to be the type of player that really steps up when the team needs him. And it can't always be Saka. It can't always be Saka. It can't always be Odegaard. We need other players chipping in. So Martinelli, big game player. Rice, a big game player. I just loved it. Ivy says Declan is a wall. Oh yeah, you guys already said that. Cosmo says Rice, Martin, and Partey should be our midfield 3. Partey looked really good when he came on. He did look really good when he came on. But again, the split of the job between Jorginho and Partey, I think, was perfect for Mikel Arteta. I really don't want Jorginho's performance to go under the radar because it was really, really good. And he's somebody that I think we underrate because we don't love that he doesn't have the legs, but if he has players around him with legs, he's very useful to the team. I thought the split between using Partey for the last 20 and Jorginho for the first 70 was perfect. That's how you need to use your squad. Monk says Martinelli and Saka really transform the side, gives us edge. They're one of the best wing pairings in the world. Social Join says once Martinelli came on, they stopped pressing, speed kills. We need some more speed for sure. The truth always comes to light, says well done Arteta. He deserves credit. When we don't win games, we're very quick to kill him and say that he has to go and all this kind of stuff. But when he gets it right, I think we have to be, also give him praise for that, because his subs are the reason why we won the game. Quite frankly, like, it's not even like I'm looking at the goal right now. Martinelli sub, Tomiyasu sub, Kai Havertz sub, Partey with the ball over the top. He got it right. Saturdays equals use, says Arteta masterclass. And, Coach Dave, I hear what you're saying, like, oh, we won the game. Now everybody's going to go crazy. I saw Lee Gunner's tweet saying, oh, if we win, then we're the best team in the world and blah, blah, blah. But if we lose, it's not a big deal. I'm sorry, but like, it's going to be very difficult to and I don't think you should want like Arsenal fans not to be excited about this. Like, this is something that people have been asking for a long time. Like, no matter how we play, win the big games against the big teams. And we've done that. And so you can't ask for things and it go in that direction and then expect people not to praise it. It doesn't mean we're going to win the league, but being salty about us winning. For me, sometimes it's I sense a little bit of saltiness from people that don't like the manager. Just at least enjoy the moment. Like, take Arteta out of the equation and whether or not you think he's good enough. This is a big moment for the players. Players that have worked hard, some players that we love dearly. So, like, if you could take the manager out of the equation for just a second, I think you can at least like just sit back and say, wow, the players really performed today. 1-0 to the Arsenal, ugly win. And this is how these games are. If you watch old games of Arsenal versus Manchester United, they were ugly. No team played well. There were big moments from the referee, either making mistakes or not, red cards. It never was. It was always like a moment where one team blew it and the other team capitalized. So I don't think we should expect free flowing, beautiful football. Always Arsenal versus Manchester City. We canceled each other out quite a bit. But, it's all about just getting the 3 points no matter what. And we did that. People have been asking that for a long time. Now that it's happening, you have to recognize it and not be salty. Um, John Donuts, thank you so much for your super chat. Says, just the curse is broken. The losing streak has ended. Even better, we did it without Saka. City bleed. And now we know we can like make them come on you Gunners. Rice is man of the match. And yeah, I saw a little bit of something was going on after the match. Like, we definitely got in their heads. Like, once that goal went in, they just lost it. And Manchester City are an amazing side. They have the best manager in the world. They have some of the best players in the world, but they're not unbeatable. And especially when they don't have some of their better players and Kevin De Bruyne and Rodri, they're just like every other team. They bleed just like everybody else when they don't have their best players. And so you have to take advantage of that. Manchester City right now, they're already on what, 2 losses now? And we're still unbeaten in the league. That's pretty crazy to say, knowing that we already played our 2 biggest rivals and our like nemesis, our Darth Vader, if you will. So that's crazy. That's very crazy. Gunnar79 says Kai Havertz assist was designed. Yeah, man, I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him because, you know, he needs something, and, he worked really hard in that game to at the end to be an outlet. And I said from the start, I kind of wanted clean sheet as well at home, which we don't usually get. But like, I think Kai Havertz needed to be the outlet that we had at the end of the game. People were saying, "Oh, we need to like, bring on Nelson and move Jesus to the middle." And I was saying, no, I just think we need somebody that we can kick the ball up to. And I know that Havertz hasn't been great in midfield, but every time that he's played well for us or decent, it's been at number 9. So he did a good job holding that ball up and just laying it off. And it doesn't seem like much, but you have to be in the right position. Tomiyasu, why are you up there? Like, why are you up there? What are you doing up there? So I enjoyed that, and I'm happy for him because we need it to work. I'm not going to lie when he's not playing well. I'm going to say the truth, but ultimately, like, he deserves some credit for that because he was in the right place at the right time and made the right decision. Kevin Kemp says facts. Jonathan Gray says we have to take advantage now. Herman says good day. It's a great day. Andrew says, Jess, he selects the team. You can't take Arteta out of the equation. He is still under scrutiny and we still need trophies. Yeah, but not in this moment, though. Like, he got it right today. And so you can say that he's not the right guy and you don't like him, but that doesn't mean you have to pretend like this is not a big win or be salty about Arsenal fans celebrating a big win. You really can't, because equally, had we had lost, you guys would have been making sure that you spoke about it every single day for the entire international break. So you can't have it both ways. You can maybe not feel like even if Rob Holding had been out there, Cedric, bad players like that, and we'd still won a game, even though I know that they're not good enough and they shouldn't be there, that's not going to stop me from being happy about the players that I do really like and saying, you know what, they got the job done. And so you have to have a little bit of balance. He's still under scrutiny, and some people don't feel like Arteta's the guy, and that's fine. But to think that Arsenal fans are not going to celebrate this and to almost like condemn them for it is a little bit like, let's be serious for 5 seconds. We have not beat them in the league for a very long time. And so you just have to kind of get over it. I feel like it's weird to want to fight to be negative, fight for the right to be negative on a day where there's just nothing to be negative about. You can feel like Arteta's not the right guy, but also recognize that this is a big day for us. Or a big result for us. So even if you want a different manager and Arteta gets sacked midway through the season, these points are important for the next manager. So either way, there's no real angle, I feel like, to be forcing negativity on right now. Like, doesn't make sense. We can put a pin in the Arteta discussion for another day. He did everything that people wanted him to do. He went with a more defensive lineup. He was pragmatic. He made the right substitutions. He did everything right. So what's the problem? John P says, thank you so much for your super chat, by the way. Says, I said to myself I would super chat if we won. And thanks for all the hard work lately, Jess. So here you go. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You guys have no idea. Like, this is two iced brown sugar shaken espressos with oat milk. So thank you. Because I love those. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Also, remember, you guys, I had the banner up earlier. We're doing player ratings now, but Femi is going to join us for the Patreon podcast. I actually might go ahead and make this available to everybody because it's such a big win, and I want you guys to be able to be a part of it. So usually the post-match podcast and rewatch is on Patreon. So what I'll do is I'll make the podcast available for you guys. And the rewatch will still be on Patreon. So you guys get to enjoy this because I just feel like this is such a big win that I want everybody to be a part of the discussion, even if you don't have Patreon. So I'll do that for you guys. But Femi is going to join me for the post-match and the rewatch. So that should be really fun. Sink says, Arsenal fans think that Arteta isn't the right manager, have been gaslit by rival fans who would take him in a heartbeat. Him and Xabi are the next big managers. Kevy Kev says, Gabriel is my man of the match. That guy, since coming back into the team after not playing for the first couple of games, has been absolutely out of this world. Gabriel Magalhaes does not get spoken about enough. My only gripe with him early on was the mistakes, the big mistakes that ended up either costing us. Sometimes they didn't cost us, but they were there. The red cards as well. It's really taken that out of his game. He was out of this world today. Him and Saliba have been so good. You guys remember we used to have Mustafi. So, Anton Dunn says this is a massive result given we've not been that fluid this season so far. And I think we're seeing that, like, Arsenal basically, like, we haven't really clicked in an attacking sense, but because we're so good defensively, we're kind of able to nick the win, and so that's fine. At some point, we are going to have to start scoring more goals and looking more threatening. But until then, Arteta's finding a little bit of a formula that's helping us. And Martinelli coming back and hopefully Saka coming back soon will really help. And Gabriel Jesus going back down the middle. I think we still have yet to see Gabriel Jesus, Saka, and Martinelli play together, by the way. So maybe once they play together, we'll have, a little bit more of what we had last season. But now he has the opportunity to also, use Jorginho, use Partey, use Rice. He has three really solid DMs that have different qualities that are very useful to us, especially because we don't really know what's going on with our number 10s right now. So he just has to know how to use them at the right times. I'm so happy he went with Jorginho today. You guys have no idea. Like, before the game started, I was like, please play a double pivot. Please be smart. And he did it, and it worked. Like, I know that we weren't amazing in that first half, but a lot of those mistakes were coming from Raya being, like, absolutely, like, shaken to his core by Manchester City players running at him and shit. But, like, Jorginho was really good in that first half. Like, I hope it doesn't go under the radar. I really do. Ayobami says, Gabriel and Saliba was solid in the back. Ham says, we just need to stay within reach of the title by January, then get in attacking reinforcements. I think that that's true. Like, our attack is not going to be perfect right now, but if we could just get our three main attackers in the team together, feeling the same rhythms, like, maybe that'll help Odegaard as well. And then when we get to January, we can reinforce, because Lord knows we need another winger and we need another number 9, but we probably won't be able to get both. And, you guys can let me know in the chat, which one do you feel like we desperately need? But I'd be willing to explore, like, Havertz up front as another option and make sure that we get Pedro Neto, because I just don't think we're going to get near him in the summer. I just think there's going to be way too many people looking for another right wing. And he just looks the business. He had another assist today. And so you guys can let me know what you think. But yeah, we just have to stay within touching distance. We don't have to be the best team right this second. We know that from last season. Don says, our people should stop saying we ain't fluid. We're not going to play like last season. Fair enough. IP says a double pivot helped us a lot today. It really did. I'm so glad Arteta went for it, because Like it just wasn't working. Like I said, our best midfielders are the four: Rice, Odegaard, Jorginho, and Partey. You need some combination of those right now in order to win games. Like, and if that means Rice has to play a little bit more forward, that's what it means. Like, we just cannot. Right now, there's just something not quite right about Havertz or ESR or Vieira. They're all kind of lacking a little bit of something. So just play a double pivot until we can stabilize and then figure out something later. TF Payne says Partey is our most important player. Rice, Odegaard, and Partey is the top midfield in world football. Mark Neighbor says Jorginho did not put a foot wrong, did his jobs, no complaints at all. He was calm and composed, great partner for Rice in this type of hotbed of a game. Tawana says, I said we would lose. I was nervous. I don't honestly, I don't really think that it was that bad of a take to say that we would lose. I mean, look at our record. It's abysmal and we didn't have some of our best players, but you know, at the end of the day, we did it. And so I didn't think that we could beat Liverpool until we did it. So I'm kind of one of those where I'm like I kind of need to see it to believe it. And we did it. And so like, yeah, now I'm feeling a lot more confident going into other big games because I know we can perform at a high level like even if we're not perfect. Like we just beat Manchester City without Saka. That seemed impossible maybe 24 hours ago. The Edry says, feels like this was a mountain while we were wounded after international break. Wow, explosion. It's two really big games, really big games, right off like off the thing right there. Like I think the next one for me is not necessarily the big games against the big six. I know we can beat them, but it's the new challenge of having to deal with this new middle group that's quite good. West Ham not being spoken about enough. They're speaking a lot about Brighton and a lot about like Newcastle. Um, and Aston Villa, but there's no real talk about West Ham, and I actually think they're very good. So you have West Ham, you have Aston Villa, and Brighton, and I do want to see how we do against those because those have to be wins home and away for all of those, and we'll be expected to win all of those games. But those teams are not easy to play anymore. They have insane like they first of all three have really good coaches and they have depth in their team. They have players that could be playing for Champions League level teams in their teams now, and so those are the ones that I'm actually a little bit more worried about because I know we can beat the big teams now. I know we can put in good performances. It's that right underneath the top four, kind of like those teams are the ones that I'm a little bit like, okay, what are we going to be like against them? 11, 11, 11, 11, even 11, 11 says, I agree with Neto should be the number one target. He can play on either wing as well. I love Cunha's all around game, only if he scored goals. We do not need another big chance miss merchant. Okay. Levi says, Arteta gets an 11 out of 10 for me. The bonus point is not taking a red after Kovacic's second studs to the ankles. He should have been sent off. Like he should have been sent off, y'all. Like I could not believe, I could believe it because I know how things work. But he deserved to be sent off. Like this is ridiculous. Like they got so lucky that they played with 11 men the entire time because Kovacic, those two tackles, the first one he should have been sent off for, and then the second one definitely should have been one. But Oliver, he chickened out. He didn't want to do it. He wanted to keep it a spectacle. Well, suck on that. Dick and Kirby Queens says Arteta was spot on with his subs today and the right timing as well. I agree. CG says love you, Jess, love you as well. And let's see, I saw another one. Chosen One said this season, the season where Arsenal rights the wrongs of previous seasons. Now let's win at Anfield in December. Oh my God, I would love to beat Liverpool at Anfield. I would. We had such a big opportunity to do it last season and we just didn't do it. But I am still afraid of Liverpool. Like, let's be real. Like they look really good this season, but this was a big one. Hopefully this gives them confidence. OG says, I'm so proud of Jorginho's performance today. He was solid and efficient. I knew he would be. I just view him, I think, differently than some other people. He's definitely not my ideal DM. You guys know that when we signed him, I lost my absolute mind. My mind was like on Pluto. I was like, I cannot believe we just did this, especially a Chelsea player after we going after Caicedo. What are we thinking? But there's certain players that are very useful for certain times, but they have to have the right types of players around them. And Jorginho is definitely one of those. He's not perfect because he doesn't have the legs. So you have to make sure you have guys around him. But if you do, he is so useful for a team that kind of needs to like unlock things, keep possession, slow games down, control the game. He's very useful for a team like Arsenal, just like Tomiyasu. He's very useful. He's not good for all game states, but he's good for some of them. And we saw that today. He was good at closing the game down. Um, I'm glad that people are recognizing like it's not about Jorginho. Like we know that he doesn't have legs. It's up to Arteta to put him next to somebody that's not going to allow him to be exposed. He did that today, and we won. Anton Dunn says we need to use him more. The guy literally nearly won a Ballon d'Or. I think there's a a little bit of disrespect for Jorginho. It's weird to me. I'm like, it's not like this guy hasn't won things before. It's just he's not your ideal scenario because Arsenal need legs, and we go in with somebody that doesn't have the legs. But he was fine today against one of the best teams in the league. I know that they didn't have Rodri and Kevin De Bruyne, but it's not like Alvarez and Foden and Bernardo Silva and Kovacic are like average players either. They're very, very good. So yeah, he's not good for every single scenario. Like I don't want him to go away at Anfield. Like let's keep it 100. But today at home, against a slower, not as physical Manchester City midfield, he was fine. C. Wilder says, I hear you, but our biggest opponent in the last 2 seasons has been ourselves. We need to hold our nerve. Ronald says, Partey on a different level to Jorginho when he came on. I think they both played the role completely different. But Partey was really good when he came on. I don't know if there's any real reason to like compare the two or say one was better than the other because Jorginho did the first 70 minutes of the game when like we were really under like some immense pressure during that first half and did a really, really good job. Partey came on, made us a little bit more sturdy as well, and then made the pass that went in for, that created the goal. So I'm not necessarily sure that I feel like there's any real reason to compare the two because they both played completely different roles and did them very, very well. Jorginho played 70 minutes, Partey played like 20. So I think like just give Jorginho the praise that he deserves and also say that Partey was really good as well. There's no real reason to compare them, I don't think. Waylon says Doku getting bodied by Zinni only to switch wings and get nutmegged by White was icing. Can't wait to see that one back. I mean, when it happened, I was like, yeah, yeah. Like I was very much so loving that. Doku did nothing. I was very scared about him coming on, but he did nothing. And neither did Holland. Holland was extremely quiet today. Crazy. O'Malley says Arteta's controlled tactics looked amazing today. Everyone wants a swashbuckling football of last year, but this was prime example of controlling a game. Looks like City posed no threat. And unless except for like the first couple of minutes where Raya was like very shaky on the ball, after that they really didn't like do much. Like they had a couple little half chances here and there, but nothing that was like where we were on the ropes. Like there was one like period of the match where I was like, yeah, we're kind of like getting backed into our box a little bit. We're not quite there, but we need our outlet. But for the most part, we were fine. And like I said, I just felt like we needed to be humble in this game and realize that they're better than us in terms of like the qualities that they have and their experience. So don't go in there trying to play your way and sit at the halfway line and try to pop it around them and hold on to the ball and be arrogant. Just be pragmatic just a little bit and try to nick it. And that's exactly what we did. We were pragmatic. We played with the double pivot. We took off, some of our riskier players at the end of the game. We had an outlet and we just worked really hard in the first half. We kept it close. We didn't shoot ourselves in the foot and we nicked it. Like that was the perfect way to play that game because all that matters in that game is the points. We don't have to prove that we're a good team anymore. We've done that already. We know we're a good team. Other teams can play good football and be open. We need to shut the back door and make sure that we nick our points. That's where we're at. Social Join says that game was played like a final, excellent tactical game. Both teams really were so even. Akau says Partey is better than Jorginho. Jorginho off the ball is poor. Partey and Rice are the best combination if Partey was fit. To be honest, I don't really care. Jorginho was really, really good in today's game, and I think he deserves credit. I know, who cares? Like, he was great. We all know that Partey is the better option, but like, could we just give Jorginho the praise that he deserves in a match? Like, we're so quick to kill him when he doesn't do well, but he actually controlled the game for the first 70 minutes. Partey came on in the last 20 and did a really good job. Like, who cares? Like, just because I'm saying Jorginho was amazing doesn't mean I'm saying Partey is bad. I think so many people are so desperate for Partey to be the most important player because they love him, that anytime you praise another one of our DMs, there's people coming out of the woodwork being like, but Partey's better. I don't care. Jorginho was amazing in the first 70 minutes. He kept us in there. Like, just give him some praise. Like, it's okay. It doesn't mean that he's better than Partey. Yo-Yo says, didn't have to try to win the game in the first half like in other home games, kept City at arm's length. Mark Neighbor says, a team that wins is not playing well is talked very highly of. We should appreciate we grinded that result out today against the best team. We should embrace it, not nitpick. Akinola says, every other team are going to be coming against us with a different level now. Arsenal must be aware of that, so we should not relax. Keenan says, it's great to have options. Rice and Odie with the ability to use Jorginho or Partey, depending on the game, is great flexibility. That's exactly it, Keenan. Like, it's just, you have to understand that Jorginho has a certain set of, of things that he can do on the ball that nobody else in our team can do. And so does Partey, and so does Rice. They're all so different. But like right now, we have probably the best DM depth in Europe. And so I know that we constantly want to make one better than the other and like cape for Partey, but we all know what Partey is. I don't care. Like Jorginho was so good in this game and just deserves a little bit of credit, just on his own from what he did. And Partey was also very good when he came on, by the way. Chosen One says, Jess, I predicted 1-0 when you asked for predictions because I had the game at Anfield last year and Liverpool beat Man City. We replicated that result at the Emirates. I remember that game. And it's just about the result. It's just about the result. CE says, these fans are weird. What's up with the party fetish? Jorginho played well and co-start comparison is weird. I don't really get it. It doesn't really matter. Like that's for another day. Like when we're sitting there and we're talking about other things, like right now, like Jorginho is so good. Like he really, really is. And so I don't know what Partey being better than Jorginho has to do with what happened on today. Okay, because he was very good. Tawanda says Jorginho has a certain set of skills. One of the last of his kind midfielder. Yeah, like he has a certain set of skills, and sometimes it's what you need, and sometimes it's not what you need. But today is definitely what we needed. And I want to ask you guys before we get into the player, like actual player ratings, because we're going to start off with this player. But thoughts on Raya? I think there's a couple of players that still did not have like amazing games, and they had moments. Like I think Odegaard had decent moments, and I thought Raya had decent moments. But overall, I was pretty disappointed with both of them in terms of like Raya just being absolutely like shook to his core and shitting his pants like for the first 20 minutes of the game. Like, what are you doing? And Odegaard just being a little lackadaisical with the ball, the flicks. Like, not only are you just kind of like not really touching the ball enough, but when you are touching it, you're giving it away needlessly. And he really just kind of faded into the background of that match. Like, and then the shots that were just like way over the bar was just for me like very disappointing, but starting off with just like Raya, like, what do you think it is? Like, because I personally still like don't necessarily feel like Ramsdale does any better in those scenarios, to be honest, because I've seen him do the same things. But I'm just wondering why Raya seems a little, is it because he's coming to a big team for the first time and these games actually mean something? Because this would be the first time where he's played against Manchester City where it's not a free hit. When you play for Brentford, Manchester City, you're expected to lose. So you just go out there and you play with freedom. And if you get pounded 4-0, you get pounded 4-0. Where at Arsenal, the temperature of the game was quite different. There was a lot of expectation on Arsenal to win a match that he's probably not used to having to win. And so he was very like, wanting to play out of the back the way that he's being asked to. Clearly, like we're trying to draw them out. But there was the one where that could have easily been a goal from Alvarez. And then I think there was like one more too where he kicked it like very early and it just went straight to a Manchester City player. He flapped out one cross. And I just thought, what's going on? Are you being infected by the Emirates? What's going on? Like, I don't understand. So I just want to know from your guys' perspective, like, do you just think that he's not a very good goalkeeper? Do you think that, this shows that Ramsdale is better or that like he just needs more time? What do you guys think? Because like I'm disappointed with how he performed today, but I still feel like, do I actually believe that Ramsdale would have done better? Probably not, because I've seen him just as rattle in a big game. But we need Raya to do better than what we've seen, today. Um, so I want to know what you guys think because I think I just was a little bit like, damn, you all right? Are you okay? Like it's I know you're scared, but like, damn, you real scared. Mark says Raya was much more composed and calm in the second half, much improved. The entire team I thought was more composed in the second half. Um, when Martinelli came on. I think Martinelli maybe gave them a little bit of a boost. CE says with Raya, it's just nerves. I think he's on edge and needs some time to settle. Yes, he had a shaky first half, but came into his own in the second. We just need to give him time, like we did Ramsdale. Fair enough. I think when you come in and you need to be the immediate upgrade to Ramsdale, when there's been so much talk about the Ramsdale situation anywhere, and there's been so much criticism that you don't really expect that player to need any sort of time to adapt to being at a bigger club, being in a different environment. And so I think a lot of people just expected him to just be better. And I think in most of the games that he's played, I have felt like he's felt like the better goalkeeper, and the statistics definitely back that theory up. But with maybe the passing out of the back against Spurs and the passing out of the back for Manchester City, it's like this is what you were here to come to do, and so you need to like relax a little bit. But ultimately, like it didn't cost us, thank God. But yeah, the first 20 minutes, I did feel like Raya was just as nervous as me sitting at home, like just as nervous as me, if not more. Like he was just like deer in the headlights, like oh God, it's crazy. Akinola says, Jess, I said it that Raya needs to prove himself before we say he's the better one. Ramsdale makes mistakes, agreed, but everyone makes mistakes to me. Ramsdale is more solid. Man, I guess I'm scarred from the back end of last season with Southampton and, some of the mistakes that Ramsdale made. And, at the beginning of this season where every single shot went in the back of the net. For me, I think statistically, even when Raya wasn't at Arsenal, he was the better goalkeeper. And Arsenal also thought he was the better goalkeeper because it's the first goalkeeper that they went after before they went for Ramsdale. So I think for me, I'm more used to Ramsdale and I'm used to his like anxiousness and, the super saves and stuff like that. But I still think Raya probably is the better goalkeeper and will show himself to be so. I just can't get over the last year or so with Ramsdale, to be honest with you. I just feel like it's very clear that even if Raya is not the guy, that Ramsdale needed either to be much better or we needed to look in a different direction. That's how I felt at the back end of last season. Like I was very happy to see that we were going after Raya after what I had seen over the last year or so. If I'm really honest with you guys. And I love Ramsdale. I just felt like every shot was going in the back of the net. The Cosmic Moss said he looked shaky in the first half, but Raya got a clean sheet. Still not convinced he was the summer priority. That's another conversation for another day, whether or not he was a priority. I don't think, could we have used a loan for 30 million for somebody else potentially? So there you go. Let's see. Mark says, I think Carlos Cuesta needs to work his magic with Raya. The expectation and pressure is much more now. Ability, he is fine, and mentals of the game. Ify says, oh no, I lost it. Ify said, what did Arteta tell Ray at halftime? He was so different. He was much better in the second half. I think the first half will stick in people's minds, and especially for people that love Ramsdale, they're going to really focus in on the first half and be like, oh, that means that Ramsdale's better. But the second half, Raya was much better, and he got a clean sheet at home. This is his second clean sheet at home. Remember, we hadn't had a clean sheet at home for like many, many months before that. So there's something about it. And again, I believe the stats don't really lie. We're emotional, so we're emotionally attached to certain players. So when we see them make mistakes, we weigh them higher than others because it's like, well, I don't really like Raya because I like Ramsdale. So this is a huge mistake. What the hell? But I still think Raya is the better goalkeeper. Charlie says Ramsdale is never seeing the number one again. We can move on from that debate. It's long. I agree. Onyx says Raya's long kicks look good in the last 10 minutes. Well, he had somebody to hit. He had Havertz to hit. That's very important too, is like when you're kicking into Nketiah, you're kicking it into a abyss, a black hole. He's not going to get it, so being able to kick it to Havertz was definitely helping him. Keenan says Raya is head and shoulders the better keeper. He's our number one. I just hope Arteta and company properly communicated that to Ramsdale. So there you go. We'll go ahead and give them a little rating here so we can get going with the player ratings and also talk about players that we really want to talk about because, like, let's be real, the goalkeeper is kind of boring. So he got a clean sheet. He was really dodgy at the beginning. So I'm gonna give him like a 6.5. Just need to see a little bit more composure from him in the beginning, but the second half he was really good. So basically, you have like an 8 performance in the first half and probably about a 5 in the first half. So I'm going to mush those two together and give you a 6.5. Knowing that you can do much, much better than what you've done today. Andrew says Raya 3, nowhere near Ramsdale's level. That's 2 bad performances in a row now. We should still need a top quality keeper. Both are average. The Edry says it's weird because you said Ray is nowhere near Ramsdale's level, but you said both are average. How's that? How could that be? How could that be like a thing? So one is they're both average, but Ray is nowhere near Ramsdale. So are they both average, or is Ray really bad and Ramsdale's very good? You need to explain that. I think you're reaching. The Edry says the closing passes to Jesus and Havertz were excellent. What was going on with Tommy's position, by the way? I don't know. Cosmic Moth says Rhea is 6.5. Charlie says 7 out of 10 calm. Jabu says 5. Philip says 6. Exactly. The other thing too is like what I notice is that people that don't like Arteta usually start to really side with players that are not on the team or not playing anymore. So basically, Tierney is your favorite player. Now Ramsdale, somebody that you probably hated last season, you love him now because Arteta is not playing him anymore. I always see kind of like through a little bit. It's like, okay, so I bet you if we go back to what you felt about Ramsdale before, you didn't love him that much, but you love him now because Arteta's not choosing him anymore. Harrison says 6. Social Joy says Ramsdale's done out here. Raya's better, be it marginally or whatever, but Raya was the original target and the goalie coach's choice. It's over for Ramsdale. Exactly. Like, just move on. Mark says it would be interesting how the defense feel about Raya now as brought in to keep calm. We looked good in the second half, so he must be a good communicator and conductor of the back line. Waylon says 7. He kept a clean sheet. Philip says Arteta haters squirming in the mud. Edry says 6.5. Correct and well done. Yo-Yo says even when Arsenal win, people have to hold on to their agendas. Exactly. Like the game is the game. Like, but yeah, Rhea 6.5, 7, 5, whatever doesn't matter. We won and we got a clean sheet. So there you go. Let's move on to the next person. You didn't play. I thought he had a good game. Ben White. I thought there was only one moment in the first half where I was like, God, could you just like concentrate on your final ball a little bit more because like you kind of wasted that. But I thought ultimately he did a good enough job. He wasn't like the main star back there, but he didn't really get cooked that much. He was just kind of like he was there and like winning his battles and like trying to do his best in possession. So I'm gonna give Ben a 7. Like I said, Ben is pretty much a 7 or an 8 every single game, and that's what you need is consistency from a player like Ben. Can't wait for him to sign his new deal. Cannot wait for him to sign his new deal. I think he's more than deserving. Keenan says if Alvarez would have scored, it would have been a 2. Reyes better keeper, but his passing was really bad. Yeah, like that. Those are the margins. It's if Alvarez scores that goal, then Reyes. His it would have been a results based like analysis. I think we're giving maybe Ray a little bit more because we didn't lose, blah blah blah. But do I think that that's 100% not happening with Ramsdale? No. I think we're beyond that. We're at the point now where we're trying to see if Ray is the guy because we already know Ramsdale is not it. I'm pretty sure if you don't like what you saw from Ray, then you definitely don't like what you've been seeing from Ramsdale because let's be real, he's been pretty bad for a while. Cosmic Moss says 7 for White. Zitch says 8 for Ben White. Keenan says 7. Jabu says, Ben Boston. He's so funny because his face looks disinterested, but he plays so well. Yeah, I think that's why we love Ben because he also gives us like the best memes. He gives us the best gifts. He gives us all the best everything. Trini says 8 for Ben White. Yo-Yo says calm, boring, how I like my defenders. Chris says Ben was solid. 7 is fair. And he megged Doku, which is like the best. Because I was so scared. I was like, oh my God, they're bringing on Doku. It's over. But then you did great. You get a 7, and I love him. I do. What am I gonna say about Saliba, you guys? What am I gonna say about Saliba? What am I gonna say? what a player. I mean, let's start there. What a player. The combination of him and Gabriel, because I'm going to do them together because I feel like you can't really do one without the other. I feel like now they're pretty much performing at the same level every single game. Like one might be marginally better than the other, but for the most part, the combination of the two is just so formidable. I mean, Holland, were you even out there, buddy? Were you? I saw you slip a couple of times, but ultimately, did he even have a shot on goal? Like, that is madness from our center back pairing. I mean, we knew that they were good last season, but it does feel like the level is going up just a little bit with the two of them. And so for me, I don't know, you guys can heap more praise because I feel like I'm maybe not even doing them justice, but I'm gonna give the two of them a 9. So this is actually for Saliba and Gabriel. Because I thought they were out of this world. Gabriel, he's cut out the mistakes. He's just very physical. He's intelligent back there. He knows when to play it long, when to play it short. He knows how to combine. He's just it for me. Like that combination cannot be pulled apart now. It would take a lot to pull that apart. And they do a lot of work back there, by themselves with Zinchenko pinching in. They do a lot of work, so to get a 9 and to keep a clean sheet against a team with this many, like, really good attackers is very good. For me, a 9 for both of them. Andrew says Saliba and Gabriel both 8.5. Mopati says, remember when Gabriel wasn't starting at the beginning of the season? What was that? You guys, what was that? Can somebody explain to me why Gabriel was not starting at the beginning of the season? I tried to understand it because I was like, okay, no Zinchenko, no Gabriel. Tactically, it makes sense. But like in the end of the day, what was that? Because I don't get it. Salah says, except scoring, Jesus was the best terrifying defenders and most mobile all over the pitch, looks sharp whenever he's on the ball. Zich says 9.5 for our center backs. Rumor has it that Holland is still in their pocket. City had 4 shots, 1 on target, none for Holland. Yes, that's what I like to hear. They're toothless. Mark says Saliba and Gabriel do exactly as it says on the tin. Defend, battlers. I love it. The combination, yin and yang, it just goes so well together, and it's just a delicious combo. Like I just love it because again, remember the days of Mustafi, remember the days of Socrates. We were in the mud, we were in hell. So now every day that they have performances like this, I just have to just spend some time because come on. Charlie says Rolls Royce and Bentiaga Mansouri. Kidded 9 out of 10. Die Hard Gunner says that was Arteta tweaking. Ify says Gabriel 8.5. John Donut says 9. Stringer says kisses. Oh, thank you. So nice. Ultima says Gundogan carried City hard past years. Gundogan is an amazing player. Harrison says Salima and Gabriel both 9 best center backs in the world presently. And I do think you'll be hard pressed to find a better center back pairing than the two of them. They just are so good, I don't know what else to say. So they were really good. Yeah, it's just that easy. There's 350 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys are liking this video and most importantly, subscribing to the channel so you do not miss another show. I'm sure for the international break, we are going to be speaking quite a bit about this win. So you guys will want to be available for these shows 100%. Let's see. Tommy, I'll just say very quickly for Tommy that pre-assist, what were you doing up there? I don't know. Did we plan it? Did you just decide to do it on your own? I don't know, but it was genius, buddy. It was genius. Getting up there, getting on the end of that Thomas Partey long ball, putting it down for Havertz putting it down for Martinelli. What were you doing up there? I would love to know. But he's just the perfect player to bring in to close out a game. I think left back or left center back or even right center back is his best role. Keep him out of right back, play him where he's going to play his best, and you'll see Tommy shine. Just a very useful player at this stage, and we were very unlucky to lose him at the end of last season. I just love Tommy so much, and I think him and the other players that came on really won the game for us, which were genius subs from Mikel Arteta. So I'm going to give Tommy a 7.5. No, I'm going to give him a 7 because I think I gave Ben a 7. So I'll give him like a 7. I don't know. You guys can give him higher if you want, but Tommy, yes. Yes, yes, yes. What were you doing up there? Let me know what did you see? Uh, what did you see? Because you were just like you were up there, and I was like, is that Tommy? Like I didn't understand who that was. Mark Neighbor says Tommy Seven came on, closed out the game, gave his all, a warrior, useful player at that time of the game, undervalue. Tawanda says Tomiyasu, a stoic performance. Ian Stanley says Arteta gets a 10 for his subs. Martinelli so much more dangerous than Trossard. Tommy a solid. Doku swapped to the left when he came on. Tiemann says Rice is a 10. We're going to get into that. We're not even there yet, but you guys know the Declan Rice sections of this show are usually very long. Yo-Yo says Tommy has taken the minutes. I'm sure most thought Kiwi would have. I'm happy for him. Um, Jordan says, I actually enjoyed this game. Such a good call to play a double pivot. Harrison, Tommy, 8. Everybody's giving him like an 8 or a 7. He's really, really like he's very useful, and I'm so glad that he's like fit and ready to go. Because we need him. We need him. We do. Without Timber, he is like our utility player. Back there, so we need him fit and ready to go. Zinchenko, interesting game. I thought he was pretty locked out of the midfield and like especially in the first half, like not really being able to do the things that we're used to him doing. He was very like Manchester City made sure that he played left back for a big part of that game. And that's where Jorginho became super important because remember I told you guys that I felt like Man City will know that we want to put a lot of emphasis on Zinchenko coming central and playing midfield. So they will find a way to make sure that they can, stop him or punish the space in behind. And so they found, I don't know how they did it, but they figured out a way to keep Zinchenko not, he was not in the middle as much as possible. So if you don't have Zinchenko there able to control tempo and control midfield, you have to have somebody like Jorginho in there, else you have nobody. You have nobody there that's like a high volume passer that knows how to find those slip balls in between the lines or, passes from like one flank to the other. And so I thought Zinchenko had an okay game. Like he didn't get beat defensively, which is important. I think that's what we're always looking for with Zinny is like, can you not have that one big defensive mistake? Um, and can you, be reliable in possession? I think for the most part, he was okay, but he wasn't that influential in the game. So I'll give him a 7. But ultimately, he didn't cost us. And Arteta took him out before he could. So I'll give him a 7. I think he's fine. Um, he was kind of like it was like more of a they canceled him out, which we knew he would do, which is why Jorginho had to be in the midfield. The Edry said the first tackle on Doku was important, set the tone. Exactly. Femi says she knows her stuff. Thank you. Jamal says Martinelli, 10 out of 10 best. We'll get to that. Zitch says good defensively, but kept quiet offensively. Zanel says Zinni a solid 6.8. Yo-Yo says Din wasn't in the game. Thought he'd be subbed off earlier. Cosmic Moss says Zinnia 6.5. Ivy says 6.5. Keenan says 6.5. Zinni says, or Andrew says 6. So yeah, he was just like okay. The key is like if you're not going to help us attacking wise, please don't cost us defensively. And he didn't do that. And so I'm happy we don't have to have another Zinni conversation about like, oh my gosh, he got megged over there. Why didn't Arteta take him out sooner? We managed that very well. And actually, what I want to say about Zinchenko is I think defensively he's been much better this season. He didn't play. Yeah, so played very well. I said this at the beginning of the show, and I actually said this before in my preview that I wanted to see either Jorginho or Partey next to Rice in this game. We needed a double pivot badly, and we needed a player that was going to be able to control the tempo and control the game because we really didn't have without him, we would have had no control. We would have been nailed into our box. Like we just said with Zinchenko, he was not there to control the game from a midfield perspective. So we needed Jorginho as well. And he played those first 70 minutes really, really well. I feel like we need to stop. And as much as I killed him after the Spurs match, I heaped a lot of praise on his performance against Brentford because again, like a lot of players are weak. They make mistakes and they continuously make mistakes because they cannot just wipe it away and start anew. Look at Andre Onana. Like he continuously makes the same mistakes. Even like Maguire, for a long period of time, he was making the same mistakes over and over again because mentally he couldn't handle the scrutiny. Jorginho made a massive mistake against Spurs, turned around, captained the side against Brentford, helped us win that game, played another big home match next to Rice against Manchester City and played the first 70 minutes like an absolute boss. Like, as long as you have like legs around him, he's so good for us because you need to be able to control the game. And the game was pretty much like half and half in the first half. We had like 45% possession, they had 55. And then in the second half we had more because I thought Rice actually went forward a little bit more and created more angles and got us up the pitch, and Jorginho kind of just managed things from behind. But when you players are bad, we kill them. When players are good, we have to just take a moment and say, you know what, you were class today. And Jorginho for me was class today. He was right up there with the best performance of the day, and I'm glad Arteta took him out when he did, so he wasn't tired and make a mistake. For me, Georgie 8.5. Like, there's just nothing. I don't think he did anything wrong. I think with him and Rice in midfield, we look very, very solid. So I just wanted to take a moment to give him just like his own flowers because it's very difficult, as we see, for like a lot of players to rebound from big mistakes that cost you games. Um, and that just shows his experience because everybody makes mistakes. Jabu says 8. Cosmic Mon says Georgie 8. Jordan says 8. Jonas says 7. Richie Rabbit says Georgie solid 7. Andrew says 7. Ramon says 2. Ramon was clearly not watching the game. Ian says 6. Jamal says a 7.5. Great player. Tawanda says Georgie is a diamond. Ify says Jorginho, the Regista, 8. T-Man says Jorginho very solid. He deserves an 8 in my opinion. Keenan says 8. Great combo with Rice, especially with our attack not holding possession well. Charlie says I just hate what he did against Spurs and then drops a masterclass like this. J20 needs to be serious in small games. 7 out of 10. Yeah, I mean, players make mistakes though, and like, of course, I want to go back in time and say, kick the ball, don't. But the key is not to continuously like crumble to the pressure because you made that one mistake. Like, it's behind him now. And so I just feel like it's important to remember that some players continuously make mistakes after they mess up once. Zitch says 8.5. J5 was good, or J20. I did not think he had a performance like this against top opposition. Didn't really rate him, but he is changing my mind. He has to have legs next to him. As good as Arteta was today, his fatal flaw prior to this using Jorginho was having the likes of Vieira or Xhaka on either side of him and then Zinchenko behind him and Rob Holding behind him. He cannot have that. He needs legs around him in order for him to be useful. He's not perfect. There's very few players on the planet like Saka, who basically have like no flaws, maybe like one half of a flaw. He has no legs. So you need to surround him with players that have physicality and athleticism, and he can do his job. And it's not like he shirks his defensive duties either. It's not like he's somebody that just like completely ignores it. He just can't do it on a consistent basis. So I'm not surprised that he had a great game next to Rice because he was not challenged to have to run long distances, to, be our main, destroyer in there. He wasn't next to two number 10s. He was in a solid, balanced midfield that allowed him to do his job properly. And so we saw the best out of him. So it's up to the manager to get the best out of his players. And he knows Jorginho better than anybody. You cannot play him in a single pivot. Levi says Jorginho 8, much better when he has someone beside him. Yo-Yo says Georgie was brilliant, always wants the ball. He stood up today, unlike others. We're going to get into unlike others, okay? John Donut says 7. And Mark says, Jorginho, a decent 8 for me. Never going to do anything special, but that is not his role. Did exactly what was needed, took the sting out of the game. Perfect partner for Rice in this type of game. Exactly. And I thought you saw the best of Rice, too, because you took away that little element of like, Rice is not really like a deep line playmaker like that. Like, he's not really going to find those same passes. And so you have one person controlling tempo, you have the other guy kind of like doing the dirty work. And I think that's the best way to have, like, in the midfield currently, the way that we are, especially because we didn't really properly recruit at left center mid. You kind of have to like make sure that you split that work a little bit, and we did it perfectly. So Jorginho for me, yeah, buddy, that was great. Let's go. Let's go. I'm just gonna come straight out the gate swinging. I don't even care. A 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. I cannot wait to see the comp from this game. This guy was outrageous, especially in the second half when he started going a little bit more forward. If our attack could use their brain for 5 seconds, we would have been in so many times because like his just getting forward on the bias, running forward with the ball, and then just laying it off to our wingers was like so good. Like he was just the tackles, the clear off the line, these crunching tackles, the vibes. Ah, he's just such a good player, you guys. Like we rob West Ham. I'll just continuously say it. Like I am so happy we have this player. Like it seemed like, why would we need another DM? But now we know why. You don't win this game without Declan Rice. You just don't. There's just certain things that he can do that other players cannot. And that's not a slight or shade to anybody else, but there's just certain things that he can do off the ball that are required to win big games. We were very on the ball team last season. We have more off the ball presence now, and a lot of that has to do with this freaking guy. This freaking guy. Oh my goodness. Some of the things he was doing, I was just like, oh my gosh, he just does not deserve to be on the losing side. He was the best midfielder on both sides. Like again, I was asking for one of our players to no Rodri, no Kevin De Bruyne. We're at home. There's no reason why any other midfielder should be shining at the Emirates. I was hoping it'd be Odegaard, but it was Rice. It was Rice. It was Rice. He was so good. He is so good. I'm so happy. So yeah, for me, it's a 10. I don't care. He's my man of the match. Wait. It may be biased a little bit because I just love him, but yeah, I'm giving him a 10. I don't care. I don't care. I know. Chosen One says 10. The Cosmic Moth says 10, 10, 10. Andrew says Rice, 10. Man of the match. He was outstanding and cleared off the line to keep it 0-0. So important at that stage. Got Raya out of trouble. I agree. Chosen One says, bro, did not let them. Zich says 9. So good. So good. CE says we needed Rice last season. He was brilliant. Ian says 9 out of 10. Great game. Same level of importance as our center halves. Jamal says Rice, the best. 11 out of 10. Waylon says 9 out of half. What a player. Chosen One says, bro, stopped everything they were trying to do. Ify says, Declan Rice, 9.5 or 9.5. Keenan says, glad people are giving Rice his flowers. Dude has been a 10 out of 10 almost every single game. And the problem with being a DM is that we've started to change the definition of a defensive midfielder. And because certain DMs like Rodri and Casemiro score the odd goal here and there, albeit Rodri's have been quite important, and even Casemiro's to a certain extent, that because he wasn't scoring goals right away and he only scored the goal against Manchester United, that oh my gosh, he hasn't looked great. I heard so many commentators saying they didn't feel like he's looking anywhere near like as good as he did last season, and he's still growing into things, and he doesn't look the best yet. And I'm just like, you guys don't watch our games. I'm so sure of it, because if you don't think that he's been basically our man of the match in almost every single game. Basically, against Lens, he did not lose any of his duels, where Odegaard and Havertz lost every single one of their duels. Like, he has been, I think, a victim of Arsenal as a whole, not clicking the way that we did last season, but his performances alone have been so outstanding for us so far that I've been totally confident in, like, we got our money's worth. No questions about Declan Rice whatsoever. He's the right signing for Arsenal at this stage. You just have to find him the right partner. And so, yeah, for me, people don't watch our games. They clearly don't get it that, like, this guy has been great since the beginning. So, yeah, he's great. Chosen One says, haven't lost to City since we had Rice. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's the difference, and it's just the off the ball quality that he adds. I know that we're so heavily focused on what we do on the ball, but last season we were so good on the ball, but off the ball we were a little easy to just run through. And Rice allows you to, like, stop counterattacks and stop, transitions, and he just does a lot of the stuff that you need to win these types of games. It's fine margins. If he doesn't clear it off the line, we're down 1-0, So there you go. Bob says 10 out of 10. What a guy. Andrew says he's so very consistent. Not seen a poor performance from him yet. Exactly. And like I said, against Spurs, he was winning all his duels in that first half. In that first half, he was winning all his duels. He was really good. And it wasn't until the second half when Basuma and Sarr really started to take over when he was gone. Sir Barchi says 9 for Rice. Ivy says Declan Rice. Is he the manager on the pitch? No, I think the manager on the pitch is still Odegaard, in terms of, like, knowing when our pressing is supposed to happen and things like that. But Declan's influence is definitely growing on the team. It won't be long before I think he's vice captain. I think you can just see that it's not even just you can tell that he's yelling and screaming and telling people what to do and keeping them, locked in. And if everybody played like Declan Rice, we win every game. Yo-Yo says Rice sweeps everything up without a hair out of place. First actual DM we've had for a while. First quality DM we've had for ages. Love that comment. Postman says, Martinelli, my hero. I love you. Okay. I love that. Andrew says, Odegaard 6, just one of his back heels came off out of 5 attempts. We're going to get to that in a second. Errol says, yes, yes. Yes, yes, Jess. Raya, number 1. No chance Ramsdale is the man. So, yeah, let's go ahead and keep it moving. Rice was obviously fantastic. Look, I'm the biggest Odegaard fan out here, and I'm very sensitive to when people say bad things about him. So, I'm trying not to be sensitive, but and use like my bias towards him and make it cloud my judgment about what I've seen over the last couple of games. Odegaard has not been his usual self this entire season, and he's been quite poor in our bigger games, the one against Lens, the one against Spurs, and the one today. And he just doesn't look quite himself. And I'm wondering if not having Saka in this game really affected him, but he's had Saka in every other game. So what's the excuse? Um, I mean, I know that we've been playing against low blocks and they've been doubling up, tripling up on him and Saka, so it's made it a little bit more difficult. But ultimately, on today, I need my leader, my captain, to keep possession and be influential in a game, not hide into the bushes on the side. Like, I really need you to stand up and do more than tell the crowd to get up. We need you to get up. We need you to make them get off their seat. You know, um, by the way, I think the Emirates has carried this team quite a bit in big matches. Like, not in terms of like they didn't perform, but I think the fans have done enough at this stage where they support the team, and the team also needs to be able to get the fans off of their seat and make them not nervous. Those first 20 minutes, if I was in the Emirates, I would have been ducking down in my seat because I would have been scared from what I've seen, and I would have been watching my captain give the ball away every single time he gets it, even though he only touched it 10 times. So between the shot at the end, like in the second half, that was just like way over, to the flicks that were not coming off, were just so inappropriate at that stage when we need to keep possession and keep calm, to the just lack of like influence in general. Like, he did make some tackles and he was busy and he didn't shirk his defensive duties, but that I'm giving him Kai Havertz points right now for duels and off the ball and running. Like, I need my captain to be our leader on the pitch, on the ball, and right now, he's not performing that well. And it's scaring me because we need him. Now, form, doesn't last. So I figure once the balance of the midfield is right and he kind of gets his head back into it, he'll come back into form. But ultimately, like, you got to call a spade a spade. He was poor today. And I'm glad we won because damn, it was going to be a hard day out for Odegaard on socials after. But he was one of the worst guys on the pitch. Like, I'll give him a 6. Like, um, it's hard. Like, I could even give him a 5 because I wanted him hooked after the that bad shot. I did. I wanted him off the pitch. I was like, you know what? Bring ESR on, because this is nonsense at this stage. So he was poor, and I won't try to protect him or anything. He deserves the criticism that he gets, and he's very lucky that we won that game. But he did a lot of the off the ball hard work stuff, which is a bare minimum requirement, by the way, for Arsenal. But everything he did on the ball, which was limited in itself, was very poor. And just another bad game on the books for somebody that was so consistent for 2 seasons. Like, maybe he's just hitting a wall, maybe he just needs some rest, but maybe there is a maybe he needs a little bit of some time off. You never really know. But he was just all right. But ultimately, like, it's a very poor game for him because his level is so high. So he was pretty poor. Cosmic Moss says Odie not there today, 5. Um, let's see. Yo-Yo says Georgie and Rice did what they had to do. There's no real excuse for Odie. Surprisingly poor showing against City's second string midfield. Mark Neighbor says, I think Odegaard did okay, was not influential, but he worked his socks off. Sometimes a player of his ilk in these types of games just does game does not usually perform. It's not a silky player type of match. It's not, but this is not the first game that we've seen. I felt like the whole season he's been quite poor for his standards. I love Odegaard, so I'm not saying this. There's no agenda from me. This is my favorite player. So I just feel like I'm needing to see more from him. I need him to be more influential, get on the ball like he was last season, maybe because things don't look the same. He's not finding the same level of space available to him, but he needs to work through that and figure out ways to be influential in games where there's no Rodri and there's no Kevin De Bruyne. Why aren't you showing up? So it's a shame, but he just hasn't been that great. Chosen One says, I think defensively he was really good. He'll be back to who he is. Always works his tail off regardless. Exactly. Um, Philip says, Odegaard stood up in the second half, though. He needs to find the balance between shooting and creating, though. The shot was just like the straw for me. Remember when Nketiah took that shot against Brentford from outside the box, and I was like, you've never made that shot in your life. Why would you shoot from there? Felt the same way about Odegaard today. Why are you shooting from there? You've never made that shot in your life. Not like that. Like usually it's the low and hard one, but that up in the air one, you're not hitting top bins. What are you saying? I'll name this account later. Says Odegaard gets a 3. He was lucky to play 90 minutes. Mbasa says Odegaard needs a rest. Really, 7 out of 10. He gets an extra point for how he marshaled the front line press. Maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to maybe try somebody else in that position just for a couple of games. Like after the Chelsea match, maybe I think we play against like Sheffield or something like that. Maybe, we have Sheffield. We have 2 really bad teams like Sheffield and Burnley. I wouldn't be opposed to saying like Odie maybe, rested for those games for like the first 60 minutes at least. Maybe he can come in at the end, but try Havertz on that side, because every good comp I've seen of Havertz in midfield, he's been on the right side. And so I wouldn't be opposed to seeing him there with like Rice and Partey, and give Odegaard a rest. We have some options. And quite frankly, everybody that we have that could play like would naturally play in that position anyway. Like Emil Smith-Rowe would naturally be a right center mid, and so would Havertz. So you have options to use if Odegaard needs a little bit of a rest, but he just doesn't look up to speed quite yet. But it's fine. Zich says 6. The captain did not have a good game. We have seen just how good he can be. This was not it. I agree. John Jonas says also to defend Odegaard a bit. What's happening to him happened to Saka after he signed a major contract. I believe Odegaard will start showing up in big games. His skill ceiling is high as F. It is. Like I'm not worried about Odegaard that much. I think he may need maybe a couple of games off. Maybe just when you're playing against Burnley at home or Sheffield at home or away, you could afford to put somebody else in that position for the first 60 minutes and bring him on for like the last 30 to 20. We don't have to play him every single game all the time. Like we have the options, Ham says Odegaard was very good off the ball. Decision-making was poor today, but his overall performance wasn't bad. Just not good as we want him to expect him to play. I hear you. So yeah, glad we won. That eases the talk about him, I think, quite a bit. And Keenan is saying Havertz played right center mid 10 for Leverkusen. So again, we have those options if he needs a little bit of a rest. He has an insane engine, but also what that could do. And I know he's the captain, but I mean you could easily just give somebody else the captaincy for the day. It's not that big of a deal. Like I do feel like you give the opposition something else to think about and some unpredictability, because they know what we're going to do right now, like Zinchenko to Odegaard to Saka. It's very obvious. But if you throw somebody else in there like Emil Smith-Rowe or Havertz on that side for a couple of games, it'll throw people off and it won't be as obvious. So it's fine. It's fine because we won, but ultimately he needs to do better. I'm sure he knows that. He'll be beating himself up, but it's fine. He didn't play. He got an assist, y'all. He got an assist, y'all. We are on the map. Goal and assist for Havertz so far on the season. I don't give a damn. He needed it. He was very good when he came on in terms of holding up the ball. He was a good outlet for us, which we could not afford to lose. I think Gabriel Jesus was doing well where he was at, so you didn't necessarily want to move him and bring Reece Nelson in. You wanted to just remove Eddie and bring in another target, which was perfect at that stage in the game, because then Raya could go long. We could relieve some pressure, and ultimately that's how we won the game, is Partey over the top to Tommy of all people to Havertz to Martinelli. So there's nothing I can say wrong about you, my guy. You get an 8, and you're a center forward. That's what we learned today. If it wasn't clear before, I think Havertz has played his best games for Arsenal at false nine. And so if he's not going to play right center mid, we need to keep him at number 9 and use some combination of Jorginho, Partey, and Rice at the base of our midfield with Odegaard in order to balance things out. Because even though this is a big game and we feel like, okay, we have big game settings, this is kind of like this is our setting. Our setting is Rice in either one of Jorginho and Partey with Odegaard, and Havertz is up top. That's our setting. You know, Mark says Havertz 7. He's starting to come into terms with the style of play. His teammates is starting to click. Afsar says Havertz, man of the match for the assist. I mean, hey, I'm happy. I'm happy about it. Cosmic Moss says Kai 8, the 65 million pound assist, worth every penny. Chosen One says 8 for Kai. Maybe he is a 9. I've seen people say it. Maybe we've misprofiled him, had a great appearance off the bench. I mean, the other thing is he has nobody to play off of. So for somebody that likes to play as a second striker, you need to have somebody to play off of. Like, people have likened him to Dele Alli, and Dele Alli for me wasn't necessarily that much of an on the ball guy. Like, he ran off of Kane, and he made runs into the box and scored loads of goals and kind of played like a second striker. I think Havertz is quite similar, but Havertz doesn't have anybody to run off of at this stage. Like, Jesus hasn't played through the middle enough, and you're not running off of Eddie Nketiah. So maybe once we get a proper number 9, like, that can really hold the ball up, maybe he can make those runs from midfield. But I'm still feeling a little bit like it's either false 9 or right center mid for him. Left center mid is a very complicated position for Arsenal because of our inversion with Zinchenko on the left. So unless we're going to do something different or Timber comes back, right now you need to have somebody a little bit more box to box on the left-hand side, a little bit more sturdy like Rice, because you just, what we were doing before wasn't working. So at the moment, he can't play midfield for us, but maybe in the future on the other side. Samuel says 7 for Kai, watching him with a side eye. Still watching with a side eye. I mean, this isn't going to change much. He still needs to keep performing. Dalitso says Rice was unreal. He was. Nana says Partey was so relaxed on the ball. He's a great on the ball player for sure. Andrew says, Jess, how can you give Havertz a 9 when he did not play the whole game? Because we're gassing it, Andrew. Because we're gassing it because we won and we need Havertz to be good. And so the scores are what they are. You can give him a 7, you can give him a 6, whatever. But he got the assist that won us the game. So he didn't play the full match, I don't know. We're gassing it, man. Come on. Richie Rabbit says Kai gets an 8. Arsenal for Life says 7. And so he did what he needed to do. He came on and helped us win the game, and that's all you can ask for. And was a good outlet towards the end of the game. You didn't play. Didn't have a great game again. Not quite sure. With Trossard today, it wasn't necessarily so much that he made any bad touches. He just didn't touch the ball. I think he probably maybe had 10 touches, maybe. In the first half, we just had no sense of attack whatsoever. And so I think he was largely ineffective. And obviously when Martinelli comes on, the team just comes alive, comes to life. And it's no surprise because we're so used to Martinelli and the runs that he's making, and his connection with Zinchenko is so obvious, and he just makes the right runs, and you can pass it to him while he's isolated against 3 guys and he can get away from them, where Trossard needs combinations and to come central in order to find the spaces that he can be good in. And so with Trossard, I do feel it's a little bit of just a bad fit over there. He's not the type of guy that's going to be able to play isolated on that side by himself. I don't think he was bad because he got the ball and lost it, because I don't even remember getting it even once. I think he touched it once and made a really good crossfield pass to Jesus, but ultimately we didn't have very much attack in the first half, and everything was going to Jesus's side, because guess what? Jesus is the player that they trust. And so I think we're seeing a little bit of certain players cannot play on the wing for Arsenal if we're not going to change our tactics. Those 2 players are Vieira and Trossard. And ultimately, the team shows you who they trust, and they really trust Jesus, they really trust Saka, and they really trust Martinelli. And there's a little bit of distrust, I think, around Trossard and Eddie, because those players did not touch the ball that much in the first half. And I'm not surprised that they didn't, because we're just so used to the certain guys in the team that we know can do the business. So for me, Trossard, he just gets a 6. I think his inability to affect the game was more based around him not actually touching the ball very much, and he didn't do much wrong. But Martinelli coming in the second half, I think, just showed our need for another winger. And if you're going to play Trossard, you need to play him interior. So either play him as a false nine, play him at left eight, maybe, or allow people to overlap so that he can come more central. Trossard is an amazing player, and I will not allow people to to try to gaslight me into thinking that he's not a great player, but he needs to come central. He needs combinations, and he's never going to be able to play that wing role like Martinelli. So if that's what Arteta needs, then he needs to play, Trossard differently and change his tactics, or we just need to, which will probably end up being the case, is buying somebody like Neto that if you don't have Saka and you don't have Martinelli, you don't have to change the way that you play. You don't have to change your tactics. So Trossard 6. We'll just keep plugging along here. You didn't play. You didn't play. I can also probably give Eddie, Eddie worked hard. I feel like I want to give him an additional point just for working hard. I know that it's not right. I'll give him a half point for working more hard, harder. Shouldn't be giving points for that, but I do feel like he pressed well. He tried to win the ball back. He ran down the defenders. He did what he could, but ultimately what you see with Eddie with that first shot that he took, and every time he got into the box, he just couldn't pull the trigger, is I think in games against the better teams, he ends up looking kind of like a kid up there, and he doesn't offer a physical threat. He doesn't offer pace. He doesn't offer very much, and he's not clinical enough either. So when somebody asked me during the watch along, what's my agenda against Eddie? It's not an agenda. I just don't think he's good enough. And I think Arsenal need to either play Jesus to the center always, or buy a number 9. Idealistically, both choices. Play if you don't have another number 9, you need to play Jesus through the middle and figure out something else on the wings, because he just offers so little in the things that truly matter for a number 9. We kill Jesus constantly about not being clinical, but you can't be not clinical and also not that great on the ball and not offer very much link up or hold up play. We were kicking the ball to Jesus and he was keeping the ball in, holding up the ball for us with the line on one side. He was doing so much hard work. And I just find Eddie to really be whelming. He's not necessarily super underwhelming because it's not like I expect very much, but he just whelms me. So I'm going to give him a 6.5, but I mean, it's so obvious that we need something else there. And, Arteta's resting Eddie for big games. That's, for me, a little okay, why is he so important to the team? I just view him a lot lower in the team than Arteta does. And Arteta's the manager, so it's up to him. But, I just can't imagine him being such a important part of the team when he's not that great. And that's why it's not really an agenda. Nobody that thinks Eddie should be playing also thinks that he's really good. So they need to stop acting like it's just an agenda. You're actively telling me to pretend a player that's not good enough, that's playing loads of minutes, is good. I can't pretend. So he was just all right. I don't know. Keenan says Eddie is a problem. His lack of passing and creativity is killing us. Philip says Trossard is a central player and would like to see him at left center mid against low blocks. I would as well. I think, again, it's all about putting players in positions where they can be useful. And I think had you have played Trossard at left center mid instead of Havertz for all this time, we might have a solution at left center mid, at least for the short term. But now we're looking at Trossard like he's not a good player. But in reality, you can't ask Trossard to play left wing the same way as Martinelli would. They're not the same players. They don't have the same dynamics. But the idea that Trossard is some bum will never wash with me. So yeah, he needs to play somewhere else, in a different position or in a different way. So yeah, Dan Delitzo says we cannot blame Trossard. First half City was all over us. Mark says Trossard is a good squad player, a decent player to come off the bench, but the ideology of him starting should be over now. Spurs and City confirm that. Akinola says Trossard, like Vieira, both better as substitutes. Social Join says Eddie put in work. He just doesn't have the physicality to do it well. If Osimhen puts in that shift, Osimhen rattles their back line, pushes the City back, and he gets a shot at goal. We need a big man up front, 6'2 plus. I agree. Richie Rabbit says 6 for Eddie. Cosmic Moss says 5.5, not my number 9. Samuel says 6 for Trossard today. He didn't click today. Keenan says 1 out of 10 for Eddie. He is terrible. He makes everyone worse around him. He's just not it. Like, I don't know how anybody could, and like he'll continuously be a topic of conversation as long as the front line is not clicking and he is playing every game. I just feel like, yeah, it's just hard. It's hard to look beyond the fact that you have somebody up there that doesn't even get a shot on goal, even when he has chances to. Andrew says Eddie 5. Um, let's see. Zich says 6. He is not good enough, unfortunately. It's just that simple. Philip says, I love Eddie as a person, but he's got to go. Like, it's just the more he plays, and then you're moving Jesus to the wings, it just kind of feels like we're forcing something that doesn't necessarily bring us that much value. But he did work hard. I'm giving him 6.5 for today. You can never say that Eddie's not going to work hard. That's for sure. It's a prerequisite at Arsenal, so we shouldn't be like giving out brownie points and gold stars. But ultimately, he worked really hard today. This guy had an amazing game. Again, Jesus is not clinical, so there's that. But he wasn't really in that many positions to be clinical, I think, either. We didn't have that many opportunities, but the guy he stood up when we needed him to. I needed him to have a big game against City and not let the mental part of City being this team that you couldn't play for and being mad at Pep take him out of the game. And he rattled them. I love what he did at the end to Ederson. I like that he disrespected them. I love that he disrespected Foden so many times and he slid into Ake right away. I liked that he disrespected them because we are way too nice to them all the time and they're assholes and we do not need to be little broed by them anymore. He had a very, like, out of all of our attackers, except for when Martinelli came on, I think he just showed the most like heart and desire. And it wasn't just hard running with your head down. It was getting away from players, skill moves, winning the ball back, holding the ball up, getting into attacking positions. Like, he was just doing a lot of good shit. So for me, Jesus gets an 8. I want to see him down the middle soon. I'm done with the Eddie experiment through the center. But on today, Gabriel Jesus really helped us. And when we didn't have our best, we didn't have our best right winger, and we could have really just went down the tubes without Saka. He really saved us up there. I thought he is a man of the match candidate. I agree. I think Rice probably for me just about edges it. And then you have our center back pairing, and then you have Martinelli as well. But in terms of like our attacking front four, especially in that first half, Jesus was on it. Everybody else was a little shocking, so he was great. Martin says Jesus 9. Richie Rabbit says Jesus 8.5. Trini says 8.5. Keenan says 9 out of 10. Jesus worked his ass off. I agree. The Cosmic Moth says Jesus 8.5. Trini says Jesus 8.5. Nana says Eddie was not giving good passes. Just Holland missed the assist of De Bruyne. Tony says Jesus 11, man of the match candidate. Andrew says Jesus 6.5, did well, especially without Saka. Ivy says Gabriel Jesus an 8. Caleb says Igadia. Esther says Jorginho played well. He sure did. Philip says, love this performance. Chosen One says Jesus gets a 9, no doubt. So glad he's an Arsenal player, by the way. Saka isn't going on international duty. Mikel confirmed he's finally getting some rest. Yes, when we come back, he'll be ready to go. Yes, I'm so glad he's going to have his feet up. That is the best news. Right up there with the fact that we won is Saka staying his important behind at home. Okay. Philip says, love the performance. I think I read that one already. Martin says, Jess, I just want you to take a screenshot of your tweet yesterday, print it out and stick it on your bedroom so you will never, ever count the Arsenal out again. But what if I jinxed us into winning? Did you ever think about that? That maybe me saying that it has the potential to be which it did. Had we had lost, we did have the potential of having a very bad international break. But maybe I jinxed us in the other direction. So maybe I should keep doing it. I don't know. But I'm happy that blew up in my face or whatever. Like, it blew up in my face. What am I going to do? I'm sorry. I was not confident before this game. There you go. Martin N says a massive performance from the boys. Chosen One says they read your tweet and took it personally. I hope I was up on the bulletin board. I hope I was. I hope Arteta pulled up my tweet and had me up on the bulletin board like Tony. Kick about with the boys. This has the potential to be a terrible international break for us. You see what Jessica Black said? I am upset. Like, I hope it worked. I do. Hampton Dunn said Partey coming back is big for us. Actually, I don't think Partey is on this one because I made this one when he was out. So actually, we'll take a minute to just talk about him on his own. For Partey, he's not on this one because and Martinelli is not on this one either because this was from the other day. So what I'll do here is I'll just put their names up and we can talk about them because we have to because they're both super important to the win. First, Partey. Look. He was very good when he came on. I thought he was composed on the ball. He had to give us a little bit of physicality. I think he came on at the perfect time, so he wasn't like stretching for things or re-aggravating any injuries or anything. We just used him for right at the end when we really needed him. The ball in behind to Tommy was perfect. I think, he's somebody that's really useful to the team. Not even useful. I think there's difference between being useful and being important. I don't want to downplay Partey's importance because he is very important to the team. He's somebody that we definitely need to be looking at as a potential partner for Rice in this time where we don't necessarily have the right balance with two number 10s. And his confidence on the ball, his passing ability is definitely going to be something that gives us a lot going into this next part of the season where we're going to play away from home against Chelsea, away from home against Newcastle. Those are big games that I expect Partey to play a big part in. So I loved his performance today. I love how we split him and Jorginho's time. And I thought, it was just typical Partey, putting his foot on the ball and making the passes. And he's very calm and cool, collected on the ball. The only thing about Partey that's not that great is off the ball. And that's where Rice comes in. So the combination of the two could be potentially very, very good for Arsenal. But I think he was really good on the day. He didn't play that big of a role, but the role that he did play was influential, like very, very important. So I'll give Partey an 8 as well, like I did. Who else did I give 8? Like Havertz. Probably, yeah, I give him 8 as well. Like I thought Partey was really good today. Andrew says Partey 6.5 did well in a short cameo. Chosen One says Saliba will not be going on international duty. Let's go. Our players are getting rest. Yes. Philip says, just now that we've won the game, can we admit that this game was huge for the title race, not for the 6-pointer, but for the mentality? Even fans might chill out now. Yeah. Like, I do think it was important. I think we need to see our team win a big game because there's a lot of questions around the team. There was. Like, I wasn't loving what I was seeing completely. I didn't think we were terrible, but I didn't think we were amazing either. So I'm happy that we did it. And it's more about, like you said, the mentality than necessarily the points, which is important for the title race. Yo-Yo says Partey was a sight for sore eyes. Samful says Partey a 9. Yeah, I think he was really good today. Ify says Partey, very, very important to this team. I don't want him to leave in January. 8. Aha says great win and excellent performance defensively. Offensively, we were pretty poor, but that's a huge result. Thought Havertz should have started up top, but all 4 subs combined it for the goal. And credit to Arteta. I agree. Samuel says Partey is like a sauce you can put to change something. He gets an 8. I like the way that you said that. Like, I think it ends up being Rice plus one of Partey or Jorginho, and both of them offer such different things. And even Partey and Jorginho on a day where Rice needs rest could actually be a really good combination too. So against like worse opposition. So I think we're in a very good position midfield wise if we just use the double pivot because that's what we need. But yeah, Partey does offer something different. And last but not least, our goal scorer and potentially man of the match as well. I think Martinelli, just if you didn't really respect him before, like everybody that was saying we had to, replace Martinelli or, he's not good enough. We need to go get Matoma and so and blah, blah, blah. Martinelli is not perfect. Nobody is. And he goes through bits of form where he needs to be sat down or rested or, whatever. But I'm sorry, but he's just one of the best left wings in the league and in the world. Like he just is like his directness. Like not a lot of wingers could play the way that Saka and Martinelli do. Like other wingers need overlaps, they need combinations, they need other players. They're pretty much isolated all game long, and Saka is more supported than Martinelli. Martinelli has nobody next to him. It's just him going up against two or three guys, and he's meant to keep the ball ticking, create, score goals, and that's what he does. He was like a breath of fresh air from the moment he came on at halftime. He was getting on the ball, getting those balls into the box, pushing Kyle Walker back, making sure that they have to defend somebody. And the goal that he scores is just a quintessential Martinelli goal where lay it off, he hits it first time, and yeah, it ricochets, but he hits it hard enough where it's going to go in the back of the net, I think. So for me, Martinelli is just like the balance again, just like Saliba. We have to get it right in midfield. I think that's what we're missing right now. The combination of Gabriel and Saliba just goes together because they complement each other very well. Saka and Martinelli go together because they complement each other so well, because one is a little bit more of a midfielder creator and the other one is more of a direct goal scorer, but also a creator. They both do the same things, but different. And they pose different threats to the opposition, and they can handle the wings on their own in teams where we just don't have overlapping fullbacks like other teams. We just don't play that way. And so Martinelli, for me, is just a player that I think doesn't get enough credit. I think he needs to play in Champions League in order to get more eyes on him, because it's strange. I feel like Brazil almost ignores him like he doesn't exist because he didn't come up through one of the bigger teams like Sao Paulo or, any of the Corinthians. He didn't come through any of those teams. So they act like he didn't exist, or he doesn't exist at all. And then within the league, I think there's this, like, because he doesn't look great on the ball, that people pretend like he's not effective. If there's anything about Martinelli that he is he's effective. He's effective, he's efficient, he just has it all. And he's just it. Like, he just is it. Like, this is his season. If he could stay fit, for me, this is his season, I think. To really break out and show people what he can do. And so he had some little moments where I was like, pass it. But ultimately he was really good. And so I'm gonna give him a 9. He wins he scores the winning goal. I should probably give him a 9.5. I will. But Martinelli just showed how damn important he is to this team. He's integral to this team. It does not go without him at this stage. If we were to buy somebody like Neto, we might be able to survive without Martinelli or Saka. But right now, those two, we need them fit. Like, we need them ready to go. Richie Rabbit says Martinelli 9. Martin N says 10 for Martinelli. Keenan says Nelly 9.5. Cosmic Moss says Martinelli 9.5. Changed the attack, got the goal. Andrew says Martinelli 9.5. Brilliant and great to see him back. Martin N says, whenever Nelly gets the ball, I always have the feeling that something is going to happen. Well, because Martin, 9 times out of 10 it is. He's always involved with everything good that happens with Arsenal, I think. Yo-Yo says Martinelli picked up right where he left off, one track minded. So nice to see him. Martin N says 10 for Martinelli and an ice pack for Ake's face. When that hit the back of the net, I just thought I was going to die. Like, it's a big moment for us. Unknown C says, I love my boy Saka, but Martinelli is my fave. Electric. Akinola says Martinelli is a 9.5. Chosen One says 10 for Gabby. Love that guy so much. Yo-Yo says Martinelli, Saka can potentially be our Ribery and Robin. The sky's the limit. As long as we keep them fit, we manage them properly, and we get them some support. It's so important for Arsenal to go out there in the market and make sure that they have somebody that, if Arteta doesn't feel confident with Trossard and Vieira on the wings because he doesn't want to change his tactics, he has got to go out in the window and find somebody who can play it the way that they do, so that we can make sure that they don't, run themselves into the ground. We have a lot of games, and I get that they're going to play most of them, but like, they need some support, I think. Samuel says, I saw something from Martinelli today. He loves this club. He does. Put the contract in front of me and I'll sign whatever. Like, I do think Martinelli feels almost kind of like the same as Odegaard as well, almost like indebted to the team or indebted to the club in a way, because Arsenal saw something in them that other big teams didn't. Real Madrid did not want Odegaard anymore. They just kind of were like, he wasn't good enough. Martinelli was rejected by Manchester United in his trials. They said they didn't want him. And so Arsenal come out of nowhere and say, we want you. And I think that is important for a lot of people. They want to feel wanted. And Arsenal has done that with quite a few players. Philip says the fact that he put in a performance off of an injury is insane. My favorite player, and he is so humble and loyal. I love that. Social Join says, interestingly, he actually was on the right hand side covering Benny. The senior players did their thing. Um, yeah, again, like such a mature performance from everybody, and it wasn't perfect. It wasn't, it wasn't a classic in terms of like, ooh, Arsenal's playing great football. But I thought the way that we defended off the ball, our commitment, being relaxed, not looking super, over too up for the game or too scared either. And besides those first 20 minutes where Raya was like out of his skull, we were really good, especially defensively. If we could just have a little bit more attack, I think we would have really put them under some pressure. But we know that the attack's not really clicking right now. No Martinelli, no Saka to start. So we have to allow ourselves a little bit of grace there. But yeah, I thought for a game where we usually lose and we come out with the 3 points, I can't complain. And that brings me to Arteta. I think you have to give him a 10. Like I said at the top of the show, even if you don't think he's the guy, even if you're, wanting him gone or you want Ancelotti or, you're down with Lee Gunner and you're like, he's a clown, blah, blah, blah. When we win games like this, I do think you have to stop and give him credit, and say at least he got it right on the day. And so I have my questions about Mikel. A lot of people do, but it's not the day. It's really not. This is a huge win for Arsenal, not just in terms of like the title race, but because we haven't we're breaking that mental block against a team that has had us like in their dungeon for a long time. Mentally, we were just like their little bro and we could not get over it. And we finally did. And I don't care who is missing because that doesn't matter. Every time that they've played us, our best players have been missing. So with our key players missing and their key players missing head for head, we won. And so that's all that really matters. And Arteta gets a lot of credit for that because he got the substitutes absolutely right. He got the starting 11 right. And you just have to give him the credit when credit is due and put the other stuff kind of behind you because today it's not the day. We won and I love it. I love this for us because I just feel so happy going into this international break. I already seen Spurs fans like fake celebrating that they're top of the league, but really they are devastated that we won that game because they were, oh, it's lucky. Oh, it's lucky. I know damn well no Spurs fans are talking about luck today. I know not a single Spurs fan is talking about luck today. I know they're not. So we hurt them, and we weren't the team that went into international break after losing. It ended up being City of all teams. So good, good. Yo-Yo says City barely had a sniff and the subs tipped it. Stellar performance from Arteta and his team. And I think we can end it there, you guys, because we've been talking for almost 2 hours. But again, I'm going to make the post-match podcast with Femi available to everybody as like a gift to everybody because we won this massive game. The rewatch will still be on Patreon. So if you want to be able to see that, you guys can. We'll probably do second half rewatch because that's where the goal comes. So that will all be coming out tomorrow sometime in the morning because we're gonna record around 7 a.m. my time. So it actually be afternoon time for you guys, but I'll try to get it out as soon as possible. Some clips will come out from now until then as well. But I just want to thank you guys so much for joining me. If you guys were there for the watch along and for the player ratings, I rate you guys so much. You guys spend all game day with me, and it is just like a joy. I'm so glad you guys convinced me to do the watch alongs. They've been so amazing. For everybody that just joined for the player ratings, you guys are awesome as well. At one point, there was almost 400 of you guys in here, which is outstanding. You guys could be anywhere, but you spent your time with me, and I really appreciate it. Make sure you guys smash the likes and subscribe to the channel on your way out. Get in the comments and let me know what you guys thought. Give me your man of the match in the comments if you guys want. And I will see you guys for when, well, it won't be live, but the post-match podcast, when it's out, it'll be available to you. And I hope you guys enjoy. Love y'all, and I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.